All right. Good morning and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you're having a good new year so far. I deeply appreciate our guest, Crystal Oakes, joining us today. And if you'll remember, a few weeks ago, we asked you to nominate speakers for the program, and Stacey Eads nominated Crystal. So at least once a month, I'd like to include speakers that you guys recommend. We're going to be in webinar format today, so please do introduce yourselves via chat. It's really important. That's a way to build rapport with each other, get to know each other. And the fourth Friday of every month, we do a networking session where we're going to have you guys, get to know each other in person. And I'm talking to a leading executive coach nationally to come facilitate the session on the 29th. So hopefully we'll be able to get her here. From now on, the cost of attending those networking sessions is going to be to bring a friend. So please bring someone with you that could use the information and use the connections. The bigger our group gets, the more value it is to you. So just as a reminder about Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. Women make 80% of all purchasing decisions. We believe that if women would choose to buy from the companies that actively promote women, and we would do that in mass, and we could create a funding stream for battered women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what we're trying to do. And I know many of you have been on all of these calls, but what we're trying to do during the time of coronavirus is connect you with each other, provide great resources, and just try to support you during these difficult times. So that's what these calls are all about. I want to shout out a couple of special guests I saw, and if others have joined, my apologies, but I saw you guys on the list. So thank you to Jennifer Grigsby and Jean Kelly, both investors in Purse Power, for being on the call today. Okay, so I will introduce Crystal, and please, again, share your questions via the Q&A box, and she'll answer questions later on in the broadcast. Crystal Oakes is a boss lady and designer at Oakes Creative House. She's built the company with the entrepreneur in mind and specializes in print or media, web media for small businesses that are poised for growth. As the daughter of serial entrepreneurs, she really understands what we're up against and the challenges of running our own businesses. Oakes Creative House has an education-centric approach to working with small businesses and startups. Crystal graduated with honors from University of Oklahoma with a BFA degree in visual communications. And prior to starting her own firm, Crystal gained experience in corporate global marketing and branding by driving brand consistency in 22 countries on 3 continents in 8 languages as the director of branding for Trevo. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Let me pass it to you, Crystal.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Donna, for that awesome introduction. I'm very excited to be here. I have a lot of great things on branding to share with you all, and I'm going to dive right into the presentation. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to get my screen shared with you so you can see my slides here. And we have to have notes when we do these things sometimes. So I'm going to put this up so you can see my screen, but not my notes as we go through. Okay, Donna, do you mind confirming that for me? Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. I sure can.
Perfect. Okay, then I'm going to dive right in. Today, we are going to talk about how do you build a memorable brand. This is a very important topic to me because branding has always been something really big in my career. It's something that I still love doing. But as I dove a lot deeper and reconnected with this entrepreneurial side that Donna was talking about, I am the daughter of serial entrepreneurs. That's how I like to say it. I grew up with small business owners around me 24/7, from my mom making jewelry in our living room at night while we were watching TV to working for my aunt and uncle's global corporation. And building something that connects deeper, something that's memorable, hits home for me because I think as business owners, and especially as women-owned business owners, we want that deeper connection with what we're doing instead of at the end of the day just saying, hey, we're here to make a paycheck. So today, that's what we're going to talk about, building a memorable brand. But first, I want to kind of say, hi, I'm Crystal. And Donna told you awesome things about Oakes Creative House and what we do here. We are education centered. I like for the small businesses, the startups and the nonprofits to really understand what they're getting into before they dive into a service with somebody like me. I'm a graphic designer by trade, but I like to say that I'm a marketing guru by years of trial and error. I think that that's definitely a learned experience. I am married to my left brain. I am all right brain functions over here, highly creative. But my husband is something like a severance tax analyst for EY, which was formerly Ernst & Young. And I seriously don't even understand what he does. It's spreadsheets all day long. So we have a good balance. The two fur babies that you see here are Izzy and Kaya. The black and white one is very much in trouble today because she brought in a mouse and had mud all over her. So we've already done bath time this morning. I love to cook. That's something that if I wasn't a graphic designer, I always say that it would be a pretty good possibility that I would be a chef. Not because I'm not great at it, just because I think that there's such creative expression in creating a good meal. The other thing I love to do in my free time is try to keep plants alive. Sometimes I'm successful at it and sometimes I'm not. Okay, so first of all, I want to just go ahead and put the myth out there and tell you that it's not true. It is possible for you to build a memorable brand. A memorable brand is not a unicorn. This is not something that is so far out there and something that's unattainable for you. I've seen everyone from solopreneurs, people working part-time for their passion projects, to global corporations latch on to this idea of a memorable brand. And what I've seen is that it often takes a mindset shift. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. So I like to start out by saying, what the heck are we actually talking about? We're going to go over what is a brand exactly, finding something to be known for, getting to know your ideal customer, and I'm sure you've heard every marketing person ever say that term to you. Problems-based marketing, a simple brand audit that would get you started, where to start after you've done that, your own personal brand and how that plays into your organization's overall branding, and how to level up again and again and again and again. So we're going to start here. What is a brand exactly? I'm going to start by telling you one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard on branding. Margie Clayman says, branding is the encapsulation of a company's mission statement, objectives, and corporate soul as expressed through the corporate voice and aesthetic. I love that quote so much because she uses this term corporate soul. Corporate soul connects with me like crazy because a lot of people think of their brand as only their logo, as only their colors, as only the aesthetic piece. But to me, it goes so much deeper than that. The other thing I love about that quote is that she talks about not only the aesthetic, but the corporate voice. And I feel that the words that you use are just as important to your overall brand as the visuals. And this is coming from a graphic designer. Remember that. So you may be thinking, my brand is fine. Crystal, it's fine. I have a logo. But a logo and the visual elements that go along with it are actually referred to as your brand's identity. Branding, though, is the overall personality and presence of your business. If your brand isn't shouting from the rooftops who you are, you're much less likely to find those customers who feel the same way that you do about what you're doing. So, how do we go about creating a memorable brand? A memorable brand starts with just that, figuring out who your brand is. The goal is not to convince a potential customer that they should do business with you, right? Instead, the goal is to present yourself in a way that potential lovers of your brand can't help but to push the buy button, right? They see one of your ads on Facebook and they're immediately on your website checking out your new product. They are running to their computer the minute you have a launch to check your emails. They want to purchase from you. It's not something that you've convinced them to do. It's something that they actually are taking an active role in and that they want to do. So the first, and I would argue the most important step, is to make sure that you have a brand that your customers can find themselves in. We all want to see ourselves, in that new home. We all want to see ourselves with that new product, or at the spa getting that treatment, or I guess that's on my mind today. Whatever those products are that you're looking to push, or those services, the people on the other side of your screens, right? The people on the other side of your websites, your customers, they need to be able to see themselves in that at the end of the day. So most people have a good idea of what their brand does, what products they sell or what services you offer. But have you ever taken the time to think about who your brand is? That's that mindset shift I was talking about. So ask yourself this question: what are we known for as an organization? If you can't answer this in a singular answer, you probably have some work to do in this area. Yes, you may be recognized for a lot of different things. You may be doing all kinds of amazing things. But this question goes deeper, right? This question goes into what is the one thing that you're known for? So just like Tom's Shoes is known for giving shoes to a child in need, or Apple is known for their innovative products, or they used to be, but we're not going to get into that. Or even how Life Water is known for bringing awareness to the arts through their colorful packaging. This is probably going to take a little bit of soul searching. And if you're working in a larger organization, you have a team, this is going to be something that you're going to sit down multiple times and speak with your team about. Think about the big picture. What's the one thing that you want to be known for as an organization? This is where branding starts for me. So once you found it, you should be able to easily fill out the following statement. I am a blank company type, and we help blank clientele with their problems by doing what we provide. So it goes a little something like this. Here at Oaks Creative House, we help small businesses, nonprofits, and startups with their graphic design and marketing needs, with services that meet them where they are and put education at the forefront. So if you can't fill out this statement, you may be in a phase of business where you need to put in some of the soul work, some of the heart work to find that one thing that you're known for and to find the words so that you can clearly communicate it to the people that you're trying to reach. If you don't yet know the thing that you're known for, that one thing we were talking about, that's okay. That this work that you put in to find that one thing will be well worth it. And that's ultimately what allows you to create a memorable brand, that thing that people want to support. Instead of just saying, here's my product, would you like to buy it? Your customers will feel that they're latching on to your mission. They're helping support where you want to go. And that's big in terms of branding. And this might have thrown you for a loop because I feel like most branding people come in and they talk about your visuals from the forefront. But you'll see I put that much later in the presentation because this heart work, in my opinion, has to come first. Okay, so you can't create a successful, memorable brand without a customer, right? This is a very important step to making sure you have that memorable brand. I feel like as businesses, sometimes we kind of forget that at the end of the day, we're here to have an exchange of service or an exchange of money for product, right? We're here at the end of the day to keep the lights on, to keep our employees paid. There has to be business happening at the end of the day. And in order for that to happen, you have to have a customer. And I hear from a lot of business owners, and a lot of the time it's when they're teetering on the edge of burnout, but they're saying things like, oh, why can't they just show up on time for their service? Why can't my customers just be what I want them to be, right? Why can't they just pay for the product instead of complaining about the price? And we want to sometimes complain about who our customers are, but you guys, it's really important that we think at the end of the day that these are the people that keep our livelihood going. These are the people that we are meant to connect with in order to do the thing that we're so passionate about. These are the people that keep our dreams alive. Now that may be going a little philosophical for you, but I truly believe that. So you have to get to know your ideal customer. Now, this is where a lot of companies go wrong. They want to say, we're for everyone. Our products and our services appeal to a wide range of people. But I want to encourage you to take a minute and think about who your ideal client is, not just the ones who could pay you money. I'm talking about the ones who become a part of your lifetime followers, your brand ambassadors, the ones who shout from the rooftops what you offer and why your friends need it. The ones who are in every Facebook group recommending you because they know 100% that these people that they're recommending you to are going to get a great product or a great experience at the end of the day. The people who want to promote you, not just the people who feel like they should or feel like they should buy a product from you. So a lot of the times for marketing experts, this starts with an ideal customer exercise. This is a very pared down version of an ideal customer exercise. If you Google ideal customer worksheet, ideal customer exercise, you'll probably find lots of different versions of this that go from surface level to very in-depth. I want to tell you a little bit of a story quickly, but I was at a business conference a few years ago, and it was by a photographer in Oklahoma City, and he was putting on a business conference to try to encourage other photographers in the area about the business side of things, right? Creatives aren't necessarily known for their business savvy. And he had another photographer come up. Her name was Katie Talley, and she spoke about ideal customers, but she used a term that I've never heard before. She called them spirit clients. And that term has resonated so deeply with me ever since that day. I've had conversations with Katie about it. That just hit home for me because it's the difference between saying I'm dating somebody or this is my soulmate. It's the difference between this is my starter home and this is my dream home. That this is the career that I'm in or this is my passion, right? That's the difference between saying my ideal customer or even my customer and my spirit client. It goes deeper. So I would encourage you to keep that in mind if you're doing any sort of ideal customer exercise. Don't just say what age range could I sell my product to, but who do I actually want to connect with at the end of the day? So a lot of times this looks like age range, income range. When you talk about income range, you should think about what your products and services are. Are they discretionary? Does someone actually need to purchase this? Is it a necessary purchase, or is it something that they're just doing on a whim? That might determine what income range your clients fall in. Because if it's discretionary, they're going to need to be pulling in an income that has the extra money to afford those kinds of things, right? What about location? Are you just local? Are you serving the local people around you? Or do you have a reach that goes several states away? Do you have a reach that goes national? Are you international? What does that look like for you? What about profession? Are you working with working professionals? Is that your target market? If so, are there specific professions that they're in? I have a lot of people tell me, oh, it's either working people or not working people, but they don't go deeper into that to say what types of professions. Are these high techy IT professions, right? So they have a high level knowledge of technical, or maybe they don't. What does that profession look like for your industry and who you're looking to target? What about likes and dislikes? I think this is important because when you're marketing to someone, you want to connect with them. You want to give them that thing that they can find themselves in. And likes and dislikes play a lot into that. What is it that they ultimately want? What is it that they're looking for to achieve in their lives, right? That's a little philosophical, but it's true. If you're looking to create this next level memorable brand, those are important questions to ask. I always like to ask, what are 3 brands that they like and why? Are they a Walmart person because they love the convenience? Or are they a Target person because they're definitely going to stop and get a cup of Starbucks while they're browsing through the aisles, right? What does that look like for them? What kind of experience are they looking for in your brand? And then this last one is one of my favorites because it gets into what I call problems-based marketing. I'm sure there are other terms for that. But what kind of problems do they face? What does that look like in their lives? And I like to freeform this. I grab a journal on a quiet Saturday morning and I'll just write down, I'll keep one of my clients in mind, one of my ideal customers in mind, and I'll freeform write all the problems that I can think of that they face in their life, even if I don't have a solution for it, right? I tend to attract a lot of moms with young kids. and they're jumping into their first ever business. They're starting their side hustle, right? They're starting their passion project that they've always had on their mind, and they're trying to do it while their littles are still little. And moms with little kids at home have so many problems that they face every day. Timing, right? Nap times, being able to work late at night, those kind of things. Other than me giving them the ability to book services with me easily and get in touch with me easily, I don't have the magical solution to the problem of having little kids at home, right? I can't solve the crying in the middle of the day. I can't solve the nap times and the pickup times from school. I can't do that for them. But what I can do is show up empathetically. I can show up as a good friend and a good neighbor, and I can say, I see you working so hard to make your dream come true. I see how hard you're hustling and trying to balance all of the things. And that's the difference between saying, I'm not going to talk about that thing because I don't actually have a solution for you, and now I'm insecure about that. And standing up and saying, no, this is something that my ideal customer, my spirit client, faces on a regular basis, and I'm going to be there for them in any way that I can. So that's what I like to get into with problem-based marketing. So like I said, this is a very, very simple ideal customer worksheet. But if you jump on Google, you'll find all kinds of versions of this. And I think it is very important for you to go through this for your organization, whether it's by yourself or with a team. Okay. Now that you know who you are as a brand, what you're known for, and what customer you want to attract, now comes the fun part, marketing. Or maybe I'm just the one who thinks that that's fun. I get it though. Coming up with the perfect way to write your content for your brand is really hard. You don't want to come off as too salesy, but you want your audience to know that you're here. Sometimes it can feel like you're seriously screaming from the rooftops, like, hey, can anybody hear me? I'm over here. And sometimes you're too paralyzed just to say anything at all. But what's the solution? How do you talk about yourself, your products, and your services in a way that truly works for you and that audience that you just worked so hard to nail down? The solution is actually so much more simple than you think. Are you ready for it? No. If you just tuned me out, if you're multitasking, I want you to come back to me for just a second. Are you ready for it? It's not about you. Let me say it one more time. It's not about you. Seriously, most people think that if they just come up with the perfect way to promote their products or their services, all the pieces will just fall into place. I hear a lot. If I could just come up with a way to convince them to buy my products, I'd be set. But my answer to this is always, convince them? Who are you, a used car salesman? Because I bet that's what you feel like when you're writing your content for your website or social media, and you're struggling to connect with your audience. So if it's not about you, then what? It's all about them. Think about it. Why do you make any purchase that you make? It's because you feel safe and understood as a buyer. This is why Amazon reviews are so effective. This is why we continue to get our hair done at the place that's more expensive. It happens to have the best conversation, ambiance, coffee, or sometimes wine. It matters because in a world of social media and people that are very much over-marketed too, buyers are really looking for a place to belong. They're looking for a place to feel understood. I'm sure you can think of a few times in your life where you've hired someone or purchased a product and you just felt happy afterwards. Like it was just meant to be. And there's a reason for that. It's because business, as a business, the people marketing those products and those services have worked really hard for that, right? It's because they've put in that soul work, they've put in that heart work, and they've created a space online where you feel that they want more from you than just your money. They want you to succeed in life. They want your dreams to come true. They're making that deeper connection with you. So my advice is always to be obsessed with them. Fall in love with them. Fall in love with helping them. Fall in love with what you bring to the table, not just for yourself, but for how you know it actually has an impact on their lives. Okay, let's talk about aesthetic. This is always the fun part. And when I have branding discussions with any of my clients, this is the part they want to talk about first, right? I like this color, or I don't like this color, or here's another logo that I found, or my competitor's doing this thing. But when I was in college, I used to always tell people that I was getting a degree in graphic design. And this is because explaining the actual title behind my degree took too much time. Technically, I studied visual communications. Now I like to flip the script and tell people about visual communications as the forefront of what I do. And think about those words for a second in their purest form. The visual elements that were meant to communicate. So I love to travel. I have been to Europe several times. I've been to Africa 3 times. I absolutely love to travel internationally. It is so much fun. But the one thing that I always notice is that no matter what country, no matter what language, I could always find a bathroom. I could always find an emergency room. I could always find a grocery store or the train. And that's because the visual elements that are used, they transcend language often, right? In the airport, no matter, even if German is the first language on the signs, you can still get to gate whatever because you're still following the arrows and the signs and the do not enter here, right? There are universal visual language that means something that goes beyond a lot of what we're actually saying with our words. So to me, the visual elements that we use are actually another form of communication. It's not just about making something look pretty. It's not just about your preferences, but it's important that we remember they serve a purpose at the end of the day to help us communicate our brand's voice more clearly. A picture truly is worth 1,000 words, especially when it's used correctly. So I went ahead and put up a few questions as a start of a brand audit. There again, you can go to Google for this and look up brand audit questions and come up with thousands of questions that you could ask in a team meeting. But it's about flipping the script and thinking about the visual elements behind what you're doing and how they align with who your brand is and who your ideal client is. So a few questions you could ask in this discussion would be, does your current logo align with who your brand is? Does it appeal to your ideal client? If the visual style behind your logo were a person, what kind of friends would it have, right? Where would they shop? What would their home look like? What do they do for fun on the weekends? Do the current fonts that you're using align with the style of your ideal client? Did you know that fonts actually put out a message? There are some that read traditional. There are some that look more modern and clean. There are others that look trendy and fun. Is that the message that you're actually looking to put out with your brand? So paying attention to those visual elements in the term of what they're communicating is really important. So one of my favorite discussions with this is colors. Everyone likes to talk about color. And I like to go a little bit deeper and say, no, let's talk about the emotions that colors actually evoke. So we're going to go over a few just for fun. So red can be passionate, aggressive, or important. Yellow can mean happy, friendly, or used as a warning sign. Blue is serene, trustworthy, and inviting. Pink is feminine, young, and innocent. Black is powerful, sophisticated, and edgy. Gray can be neutral, formal, and gloomy. Orange can be playful, energetic, and I hate to say it, but can sometimes be cheap. Green is natural, stable, and prosperous. Purple is luxurious, mysterious, and romantic. Brown can be earthy, sturdy, and rustic. And white is clean, virtuous, and healthy. So I'm sure you can see right now, if you visit my website later, this will make so much sense, but my slides, my color of top that I'm wearing right now, the pictures behind me, all the colors in everything that I present are a part of my brand. I am meticulous about this. I am known for bringing in whatever outfit I'm going to wear for a photo shoot into the nail salon so I can match my nail color perfect, right? It is important that the colors that we put out are not only cohesive in what we're presenting for our brand, but that they have that deeper meaning that actually makes sense for the message that you're looking to convey. So I use a lot of green because I'm looking to help business find their prosperous nature, right? I'm not just trying to help them make things look pretty, but we're actually talking about sales at the end of the day. So does your brand use any of these colors? If you don't see a color here, you can always Google search the color and the word emotions, and you'll find some of those feeling words behind those colors or specific color scheme. I think this is a great important exercise to do for your brand. The other thing to keep in mind is after working internationally, I learned this in a really big way. Colors in different cultures mean different things. So if you're working, if you have a reach that's international, that's important to look up what do these colors mean in other cultures and countries. And if not, it is still important to keep in mind because you never know when your brand is going to reach that point. We always want to be thinking into the future, right? If that's part of your organization's dream at some point, you might as well keep it in mind now. So where do you start? Now that you're solid on who your brand is, it's time to move forward with your next big goal. Maybe your next big goal is to find 10 new customers. But how do you do that on brand? And more importantly, like, where the heck do you start? So I like to use the lowest hanging fruit method. And this is a list of places that you probably already show up. So I like to grab a notebook and write down where I'm already conversating with people who are my potential clients, and go through and make sure that this new message or this revamped brand, or if you feel solid that your brand is right on track, that your steadfast message is present in all of these places. So a few examples could be your Facebook business page. What does your cover image look like? Does your bio make sense, right? Is your website listing correct? What about your Facebook profile? Your Facebook profile, if you're a representative of your organization, maybe it's time to make sure that the pictures that you're putting up are a correct representation of what you want to attract. Maybe your bio needs to say who you work for or what your organization's website is. What about email marketing? I know text marketing is making a big play in the industry, but email marketing is certainly not dead. This is a big place that you could show up well for people. Past clients, if they haven't worked with you in several years and you've revamped your message, maybe it's time to get back in touch with them. Maybe they're in alignment with where you're headed. What about current customers? Do they fully understand what it is that you do? I've heard a lot of times early in my career, oh, I hired you for a logo, but I had no idea you did websites. And it's because I wasn't communicating this all-encompassing approach to the people that I was actually working with right now. What about networking groups? A lot of these went virtual, right? They look different than they used to, but at the same time, we can show up virtually in something like this. You could jump in the chat, you could tell people what you do in a clear, concise manner, and really drive home that message that you're looking to promote. What about Facebook groups? Facebook groups are still trending upwards. A lot of times they're posting things like, tell us what you do and share your website, but it's important that with that, you also put the right words, put the right imagery, the right picture to say, no, here's who we are as an organization. What about an Instagram post? You could take that further into stories. This list could go on and on. Where are you already showing up that you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel? That's what I like to do for lowest hanging fruit. So this could go on and on, but having a clear place to start is really important when it comes to showing up and can make your life a lot easier. Okay, let's touch very briefly on your personal brand. Now you may be asking, like, why does this matter? Because I'm talking about my company. What does personal brand do? But your image, the way you act around others, the way you treat others, the way you position yourself for success, the manner in which you carry yourself, that's your personal brand. And it matters when we're talking about your company because no one will ever be as passionate about what you do or what your organization does than you. No one can create the kind of energy around your business or nonprofit that you can. You're in this position for a reason. Gone are the days of faceless companies. Even Facebook users blame Zuckerberg when something goes wrong, right? Do you think he was actually the person sitting behind the computer writing the piece of code that caused whatever glitch happened? No. But as humans, we have a huge desire to connect with people. That means there are customers right now who want so badly to connect with you. But if you don't have your personal brand figured out and you're not communicating it well to others, this is a place where you're really missing out on those deeper connections. So it's time to stop hiding who you are and what you represent. It's time to pull people in and show them what this brand means to you. It's time to take them along the journey with you. If you're in a larger organization with team members, it's important to remember that they need to see themselves this way too. They should see themselves as a face of your company and represent themselves in that manner. So each touch point and interaction with your ideal customer is part of that experience for them and your brand. It's important that they know and that you've had discussions with them about how their personal brand reflects your organization. Okay, so before I leave you, I just have to share the biggest mistake that I see people making when it comes to branding. They treat it as a one and done project that they don't touch again for 10 years, right? They did their logo a long time ago. They got really attached to it at the time. It doesn't even matter if their brand has taken 15 pivots since then. They feel like, oh yeah, I've already done that. I already have that. I don't need to touch that again. But your brand is a living, breathing thing. It's time to stop ignoring it. It's an active part of what you do. So take out your schedule right now. I really mean this. Like, grab your phone and take out your schedule and pull up your calendar app and schedule yourself a date with your brand. Take the time. It's begging for your attention. And you guys, it deserves it. It deserves to have your attention again and again and again and again. This is not something that you do one time and you walk away from. Even if you don't change your logo, even if you don't change your colors, it should be an active discussion to make sure that what you're putting out is in alignment with who you are as an organization. So that's my big piece of advice for you, is don't treat it as a one and done project. So that's me. I want to thank you for letting me join you and give you all this information today. Before I turn off my screen share, if you want to jot down this web address, I have lots of free worksheets and tips and brand audits and ideal customer worksheets on my website if you want to download them. Of course, you can find all those things on Google too, but if you want to see how I do it, oakscreativehouse.com. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my screen share and open this up to Q&A. I would love to hear any questions that you guys have related to this topic, but to be honest, if you're going to ask me anything, I'm game to answer it. I think Donna had mentioned that we were going to use the Q&A box for this.
Yes,
so
please.
If you hit Q&A, then you'll be able to type me out a question, and I should be able to see it there and read it out to everyone else and then go ahead and give you an answer to it.
Okay, I'll start just because I have a question. So what's happened for me is we spent some time originally when we came up with our brand, and actually she's a leading brand maker in our state, and I think it was fantastic, really love it. And it's gotten confused, like my website has gotten really confused over time. We've added a bunch of stuff and it's not as clean as it needs to be. When you're going through this thought process about who you are and who your customer is, do you have any guidance around websites and making them as effective as possible?
Yeah, I do. One of my favorite authors in my industry is Donald Miller with StoryBrand. He also has a podcast. He has templates on landing pages and things like that. If you're going to tackle it yourself, that's a huge resource because he does a lot of this deeper connection with the people who are following you. So that's a great resource. But if you're going to just kind of take it from a high level, what I love to do is actually walk through my customer's experience from start to finish. So if a lot of people find you on Facebook, go to your Facebook page, right? And go through that experience of clicking on your website. And then what does your homepage look like? Does that lead a seamless experience for that person? So if you kind of act as customer, act as person on the other side, right? Does that give them what you wanted? And sometimes if you put on that hat instead of producer, then it can kind of help you to see things from their perspective. The other thing is if you have trouble doing this, pull in a friend or pull in someone to audit it for you and give you some feedback. But I go all the way through to putting my credit card into forms and filling out purchasing things that I sell, signing up for services and refunding my own credit card to just make sure that's a seamless experience all the way around.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a question here from Casey. If you decide to change your brand, what should you watch out for to avoid confusion with your current customers? I think that this is all about communication. If you do go through a brand change, it's really important that you don't just roll out a new thing overnight and be like, look who we are now. If you have current customers who have followed you along, this goes back to pulling them in on the journey. It's important that you pull them in on this and you say, we're going through a brand change because of XYZ reason. Not because we got tired of our logo or we don't like our colors anymore, but because we're looking to communicate it differently. And that's usually how I like to approach it, is pull them in, let them know, go live on your social media pages and tell them we're changing things up because of this reason. We want to do things better for you. And part of that means launching a new brand. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I'll ask another one while we wait for others. So one of the things that we did with our branding color is kind of coral. And when we get anything printed, it ends up red or orange.
Yeah.
Do you have any guidance around that when you're picking your colors?
Yeah, corals are really hard. A lot of print professionals would tell you to pick a PMS color, a Pantone color. But oftentimes what I've found is that leads to more expensive prints at the end of the day, because you're having to pay that printer to carry that color. And that can be really hard. So you see big organizations, someone like Nike or Facebook, they'll have Pantone colors for what they do and ensure consistent print across the board so their colors always match. So that's the proper way to do it. But honestly, for a lot of us, I've ran into the same issue with greens. Greens are really hard, especially the brighter greens, to keep that color consistency. So I like to kind of go to one printer instead of multiples, find the color that works well for their setup, and always stick with that printer, which could mean you're planning ahead a little bit, and you're also looking a little bit harder to find someone who can print everything that you have that you need, rather than, oh, I go to this place for a flyer and I go to this place for a business card. Finding that consistency will allow you to tweak that, get a color that works for their setup and their system, and print it way more consistently.
Good advice.
Lots of trial and error. I'm reading through the chat box, make sure I didn't miss any questions there.
Perfect.
If you guys have any questions, just pop in the Q&A box, open that up and type me out a question, and I would love to answer it for you. About any topic, I'll take them all.
I think your point about mistakes, like what do we commonly do that really kind of gets in our way as entrepreneurs around this topic?
Yeah, I think it's being kind of stuck in our ways. A combination of that and saying like, oh, we already did it, so we don't need to do it again. That is a big mistake that I see a lot. Just that idea that, oh, we can't put out a different color because we don't want to change it, or being afraid of change, not knowing how to communicate that change well to the people on the other side of the table. But also, I think, a common mistake is not being able to put yourself in the shoes of your customer. And it is a learned thing. You have to practice it a lot of times. But I'm always telling people, like, find someone that you really trust and trade with them. Say, I'll walk through your customer's experience if you walk through mine. I'll give you feedback if you give me feedback. Like, offer to help another entrepreneur out in order for the same thing in exchange. And really, it's just that great feedback at the end of the day from your customer's perspective that's going to open up those light bulbs and say, oh, my website isn't clear, or this didn't make sense to them at the end of the day. Because when you're over here working, and especially some of us that like work really late at night or really early in the morning to try to get our own stuff done, it's really easy to overlook something that maybe just isn't clear to the rest of the world. Oh, Alyssa says, Crystal, what's the difference between logo and a branding guide? What all do you need to roll out new brand other than just a logo? That's a really great question. It kind of depends on your goals and what stage of business you're in right now. So the first discussion that I ever have with anyone when it comes to branding is where are you headed and where are you at right now? Because if you only have the budget to put up a logo on a website and keep it very simple, and then you need to make the revenue in order to get to the next stage, that's going to determine your decisions that you're making. While all of us would love to have all the money at our fingertips to do everything perfect the first time, that is not real life entrepreneurship. It just does not work that way. So I always like to have that discussion to say, you can launch a brand with just a logo. You can. But also, if what you're trying to do is launch packages that are on brand, right? Products that have packaging that are on brand, or if you're also looking to make your seamless customer experience really over the top, that's part of your set apart factors that you're trying to do in your business, then maybe it's important that you have a matching note card that gets sent out as a thank you card to every one of your new clients that joins you. Maybe those extras, those other things are really important. So I like to, for a branding guide, it would include a secondary logo, because it's often that your primary, maybe it's designed horizontally, maybe it's vertically, maybe it wasn't a square, and sometimes that works nicely across all platforms. But if it was done in a way that doesn't necessarily fit somewhere, then it may be important for you to have a secondary logo that's a little bit different of a layout, that still flows, but you can use whenever you can't really use the first one. I get really frustrated when I drive around town and I see signs, like signs outside of restaurants and things like that. And they could have easily rearranged their logo and made that sign much more readable from the road, but they didn't, because they wanted to stick with their main logo. And then it's this tiny on their sign. And I'm going, what's the name of that place? I can't see it. Those things are really important. So a secondary logo typically goes in a branding guideline for me. Other colors, you may only have 2 colors for your brand whenever you launch, because those are the most important. But as you go along, part of having a great website is that surprise factor as you scroll. It's the experience of going, oh, and look at this information. Oh, look at this information. Same thing with print pieces. If you're opening up a brochure, you want to have a cohesive look, but also the difference enough in the sections so that people will pay attention to them. So sometimes it may take having secondary colors, other colors that still flow with your brand, but aren't the ones you use every day. That goes in a branding guideline. And sometimes that looks like secondary fonts too. I don't have a script font in my logo, but I use a script font in my brand a lot, because I typically appeal to women. I love that script font. It works really well for my brand. And it just didn't work very well in my main branding, because honestly, Oaks with an ES would be really hard to read in a script. So those are all things that you can keep in mind. That's the difference between just one logo, which is one piece of your brand, and a branding guide that would have all these other things that you're thinking in the future. How could this impact signage? How could this impact packaging? How does this have an impact on a brochure or website? Those are the elements that you start to form in a full brand discovery. So, Alyssa, I hope that answers your question. Amy asked, how often do you think a brand refresh needs to be done? That's a really great question. I've been asked this question before, so it's a very common one. Don't feel alone in thinking that. But one of the ways that I like to approach it is by saying your customers will not be tired of your brand anytime soon before you are. You're going to be tired of your brand and they're not. And you're acquiring new customers, hopefully, all the time. So this is new to them. So a lot of times when I hear people want to refresh their brand, it's because they're tired of it. And that's not necessarily the end all be all answer. Yeah, sometimes you need a pick me up in what you're doing too, and a fresh look can help bring that to the table for you. And there's no harm in doing it sometimes. But my answer to that typically is it doesn't need to happen as often as you think. Little adjustments can be made along the way without necessarily doing a huge overhaul. And it needs to be a discussion that happens often, even if you're not taking action on it yet. So I think that you should be sitting down as an organization, or if it's just you sitting down by yourself on a Saturday morning, that date with your brand, and saying, does this work? Does it connect with my ideal customers? What does this actually feel like? Does it feel right? Will it work 5 years from now? Will it work 3 months from now? Does it need a small tweak or does it need a big change? And those are discussions that branding experts can help lead you through too if you get stuck trying to do it on your own. But ultimately, you're going to be tired of it before they are, but you should be discussing it regularly. So Amy, I hope that answers your question. Okay, if anybody else has another question, I'd love to answer it in the Q&A. I think maybe we have a few more minutes.
You do?
Anna?
While people are coming up with questions, the thing that was on my mind was, how do I get feedback from my customers on their perception of my brand?
This is a really good question. I actually really love this question because if you think about your brand and visual elements, what instead I like to ask is not, do you like my colors? Do you like the font that I use? I don't like to ask them specifics like that. Instead, I like to ask them questions that allude to that answer, right? Because we just learned that colors have meaning, that all these things have a visual language that you're putting out. So instead, I would say, how do you perceive us? Right? What part of what we're putting out captured your attention? Questions like that, even multiple choice. Do you see us more as a luxury item or something that you could easily buy and put into your product cabinet, right? Questions that allude to the answers that you want, that mission that you're trying to put forward with your brand, so that you could go back and do the work to say, does my color do that at the end of the day? If I'm not being perceived the way that I want to, I need to do some more work on it. And do the elements that I have in place, are they holding me back from being perceived to the way that I want?
Very good. Thank you. Okay, any other questions, guys? We've got a branding expert here.
I think it's important to remember that, visual elements at the end of the day are still subjective. I always laugh when I walk through it. I'm an art history minor, so every time I walk through an art museum with my husband, he's like, are we done? This is the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like, okay, so they painted a line and that's art and somebody paid money for it. Like, visual elements that you're using in your branding and marketing are still subjective because they are still artistic. But I think going roundabout and asking the right questions so that you can determine if they do that for you or the majority, instead of just taking someone's comment at face value because it is subjective, is really important to keep in mind.
And some people care much more than others do about the visual appeal of things, right? People like me sometimes don't notice. There are people like you that care very much. I've got a kid that does as well. Yep.
Exactly. And I would say for most people, it's the overall feeling that they're getting from what you're doing. And they can't put their finger on what it is about that did it for them or that didn't work for them. They just know it's working or it's not. So that's why I like to ask those questions. Did I connect well with you? Did you get this perception that I'm wanting to put out or not? And then I can go back and determine, what am I doing wrong that's not linking up?
Very good. Like, I have done personality instruments for a living, and there's a scale about how much you care about aesthetics. And on a scale from 1 to 99, I was a 6.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So that my son is a 99. Literally, when my sister was coming to visit me, I handed a credit card to somebody who understands this and said, put stuff on the walls.
Yeah.
So it's useful to have somebody like you that gets it, that understands it.
Exactly. That's what I was going to tell you. If you're low on that scale, I would find a partner to help with that. Sure. Looks like we have one more question from Amy. Would you mind talking more about personal branding versus organizational branding? I love what you pointed out, that the customer clients relate to leadership or faces behind the brand. Yeah, I love that. It took me a long time to be okay with that, even in training myself to be okay on video. I like to say that I'm a diva about it. I'm such a diva about it. I have to have my makeup done if I'm going to be on video with you, if I'm going to post a selfie to anything. We put so much effort into like what my backdrop looks like, and then I have a plan. So I mean, all the different elements we put effort into, because I am sort of a diva about it at the end of the day. I'm not the person that's going to throw my hair in a ponytail and jump in my car and do a live while I'm on the road. That's not my personality. And it took me kind of doing that soul searching to figure out I don't have to do that, because I see someone else doing that. I don't have to. So your personal brand is you at the end of the day. And I like to say that you attract what you put out. And if you're acting in a certain way, if you're putting yourself out there in a certain way, you're likely going to attract people that works for. And if you're really solid in who you are, and this may take some therapy or whatever you need to do for yourself, but if you're really solid in who you are, this becomes a lot easier to do. But you're completely right, Amy. People want to relate to the person behind a brand. They don't want to think about these big corporations and the faceless companies. It is kind of the difference between thinking about, an organization that has a big heart behind what they do, or even like Oprah's Super Soul Conversations versus Walmart. It's like, oh, I'm going to listen to Oprah all day, or I'm going to go to Walmart. Like, it's the difference between that. You have a person to connect with versus you don't. And I think that we all, as, and I'm not sure who all's on the audience here, but if you have a nonprofit, if you have a small organization, if you're a solopreneur, a younger entrepreneur, there are a lot of ways that we need to be connecting with those people, because that's what ends up building our trajectory. That's what ends up giving us the growth that we're looking for, is making those connections. So I have a lot of people that will say, like, I just want to look like the big guys. But I really disagree with that. If you're small, embrace being small. Embrace being at the level that you're at, and you'll find the people that want to support you and carry you through and follow you along on your journey and move to the next level with you. Because I'm sure we've all had people that were like, remember when they were just doing this in their garage and now they're selling jewelry all over the United States? And I read bios and listen to stories like that all the time. So I think it's really important for you to pay attention to your personal brand. And in larger teams, this becomes a little bit harder because everyone has different roles. But especially if you're the owner of your company and you're putting this out here, it's important that you have those boxes checked and that you're putting out the message with yourself that you want other people to bring back to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Crystal. You've been amazing. This has been very helpful. And particularly for someone like me, this is not my thing at all. So it was great to learn from you today. I just want to remind everybody about our upcoming guests. So on the 22nd, we're going to have a Women in Technology panel. And that will have Brandy Seymour, Katie Batiste, and Ashley Coffey. And they're going to be talking about leveraging technology for success. On January 29th, we do have a networking meeting. And again, this is a chance for you to get in front of live people across the United States. We want you to get to know each other. Hopefully you can get some customers or partners out of that. And we want you to bring a guest, please. On February 5th, I've got Francine Sears, and she is the CEO of Women in Business. She's on a bunch of boards. She's amazing. She produces the bags that the majority of very top-notch CEOs in this country carry, so women CEOs. And then on February 12th, we've got Elizabeth Hutt-Pollard. She is the Secretary for Science and Innovation for our state. I would ask that if you don't have a directory listing already, if your company has a female CEO or president, or is half owned by women, or has at least 20% women on their board, please join our directory. We've got a directory of about 750,000 businesses across the U.S. Please do download our Google Chrome extension. You can get at that. I think that Alyssa's going to go ahead and put a link in here. What it will do is you download the extension. As you put it on your Chrome browser, when you shop, the companies in our directory, a Purse Power logo appears next to them so that you know which companies you want to buy from. You know which companies are women-owned or women-led as you're shopping online. Please do use the Purse Power directory to buy from women-owned and women-led businesses. That's what we're all about. We want to support each other. And please do like and share our social media pages. We'd appreciate it if you'd invite your friends to these broadcasts. We're trying to bring in some national speakers. The quality is very high, and we hope you can bring other people to the audience to join us. And that is every 10 o'clock every Friday Central Time. Do you have anything else you want to add, Crystal? Anything else you want people to learn from you or think about?
I think I'm good. I just hope everyone walked away from this with a little bit of a mindset shift, because I think that's where it all starts for all of us.
Yeah.
So I can't thank you enough for having me on. I'm loving reading all the chat comments right now. So thank you all who attended and listened to me ramble for a while. I hope you got something useful.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And everybody, I want to remind you that we post these on Let's Share the Journey on our website. That tab has all of our prior broadcasts. We've had some amazing people on, and there's just some really good learnings there, and it's all free. Last but not least, remember, purse power, we have it. Let's use it. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Friday.